For this next part, I will be discussing the 5 original tribes of the Iroquois Confederacy. First off, we have the Mohawks. And on my dream catcher, you can see that their little piece is represented by a bird with a chain around it. The Mohawks were known as the keepers of the Eastern Door, and they protected the Confederacy against any invaders that tried from the east. They were originally from the valley of the Mohawk River in what is now New York. That's where they get their name. They called themselves People of the Flint and were known for making a variety of useful tools out of flint that they traded with other nations in the Confederacy. They hunted, they fished, and they grew large maize fields along the river. In 1635, they contracted smallpox, and it killed 63% of their population, around 5,000 people. 7 years later, they had shrunk from 4 villages to 3. They were later burnt by the French as a response to a Mohawk attack on the Pequot Confederacy. The Mohawks now dwindled in only 2 villages from the original 4, the Upper Castle and the Lower Castle. Most of the Mohawk tribe had been converted to Christianity, whether through choice or a little bit of force. In the Revolutionary War, the American Revolutionary War, the majority of Mohawks sided with the British in an attempt to salvage their good standing for the sake of their trade. Other chiefs chose to remain neutral, hoping to spare their people from more harm and death. In today's modern society, there are over 30,000 people who are part of the Mohawk tribe in North America. They live in Lower Canada and the Upper United States. Mohawk Skywalkers actually helped to build the Twin Towers in New York, and as they were very active in New York craftsmanship at the time. They have been contracted and helped build grand bridges in Canada and are noted for their amazing work with steel. The main modern religion for Mohawks is Christianity, but it also in some situations has been a little bit of their culture and religion mixed into that, so there's a new modified version of both. Up next, we have the Onondaga. So as you can see, their symbol is a chain of people, which I'm very bad at drawing, and in the middle there is a tribal chief outline of his head. So these were very peaceful people, and they wanted to keep the unity all around. They were called People of the Hills and lived in longhouses. These longhouses had the ability to be picked up and moved, and entire families with a large branch of relatives lived in each of them. So you'd live with your aunt, your uncle, your grandparents, your cousins, all of them would live in one big house together. They moved to these houses as they needed to in order to find land that would be better for crops or fishing or hunting or whatever they needed at that time. They were the center of all the Iroquois Confederacy. They were the record keepers and often held most of the meetings for all the chiefs to talk. They were also politically the highest, holding the most vote in many decisions. In the 1700s, some of the tribe members broke off to go join the French due to their teachings about Christianity. The vast majority of the members stayed and sided with the British. George Washington was surprisingly good at working with the Onondaga people and tried to keep the peace in as many ways as he could. He did this through treaties and agreements, although sadly, most of them were eventually ignored. A school was built on the territory of the Onondaga people, despite their protests that this would later bring unwanted visitors to their land. Then, the school was burnt to the ground. They later built a second school which outlawed the speaking of native language and sent a lot of young native men away to be properly trained in the ways of a traditional Christianity and other ways. Time and time again, the Onondaga people led the charge to deny the U.S. government from gaining control of them. Whether it be taxes, amendments, or an attempt to regulate their lives further, these people did not back down and refused to be bullied into compliance. Now they live on a 7,300-acre property specifically set aside for their benefit. This tribe focuses largely on keeping heritage alive while also promoting democracy within their people. They are still led by a tribal council, but these members are now elected instead of chosen solely by their heritage, which is a step forward for these people. They no longer choose to live in longhouses, but instead inhabit modern and modular homes. The most common job for them is to be teachers. They have an independent government that is thriving and growing with its people, and they do not take part in the casino business, unlike many of the other tribes in the United States.